Today's video is all about gang stalking and targeted individuals, and I'm pretty sure that my family was gang stalked when I was younger. I don't think that I'm a targeted individual, although I do have some of the symptoms. So we're going to talk about the symptoms and like just overall kind of what's going on with this and how it relates to the GATE program. So targeted individuals are somebody that like the powers that be have deemed most likely dangerous, or they just kind of want to keep them out of the way, and it's a way to like immobilize people and keep them, exactly where they are, or like put them into like the loony bin, basically. They are trying to make you seem crazy to those around you. A lot of times these people will get diagnosed with like schizophrenia or Gillen's, which is like that's something where you like imagine or like there are bugs like crawling in your skin. Some people say that it's like perceived. Some people say that like it's real and that you can actually like feel or see the bugs. Or some people say that it's like spiritually happening. Um, so those are some of the ways that they can do targeting. You can be like physically followed, and that is what I actually think that I had happen when I was younger. So there was a period of time where I don't know if it was like my dad was being gang stalked or who in my family was being gang stalked. Maybe it was me. But there was always a truck that was sitting outside of my house, like on at like weird hours of the night. And it's like they wanted us to know that they were there. We always had our cars broken into, like, and things didn't always get taken, although I did have like my stereo system stolen a couple of times. And then I learned and like took it off so that they couldn't steal it. That was back in the day with all of that. But they would just like kind of rummage around in our cars and like spew change places, or like I've had my windows broken out a couple of times too. And then when I was younger, I always had dreams that our house was being broke into. I don't know if it ever actually was, but like I never felt like safe. I always felt like our house was being watched, and I had a lot of weird dream stuff and a lot of sleep paralysis happening in that house. So I don't know if any of that ties in at all too. But other symptoms, so like that was what it looked like for me when I believed that my family was being gang stalked. And again, this was when I was like a teen, because like I had my own vehicle, so I was probably like a senior in high school, and maybe a little bit before that too. And then other symptoms could be a little bit more subtle. It could be that you hear voices in your head, usually that are not your own. It could be that you hear like tones in your head, like ringing in your ears. Sometimes dizziness can even get it. And I do get dizzy a lot, so sometimes I wonder if that's targeting. And occasionally I'll get ringing in my ear, but I feel like that's kind of like a normal amount, whereas like the dizziness is excessive. Um, you can there you can have like voice to skull technology, and I've mentioned that in some other videos too, but they talk about that. And like if you look up the Havana syndrome, that's where there were some US officials that were in, and I think it was in Havana, and they had these different frequency weapons that were being used on them, and they had like all kinds of crazy symptoms. So it was almost like they were just kind of like testing what types of symptoms could happen with that. And of course, they've had this technology for many years before they actually admit to it. And now they actually used it earlier this year, 2026, in Venezuela when they were taking down like the leader there. Um, Trump was talking about how, or soldiers, I guess, were talking about how they used this weapon, and they were like bleeding from their nose and like nauseous and like, just all like dizzy, like losing their balance, all kinds of weird symptoms like that. And so that's just one example of what they can do to targeted individuals. They have the power to like use those frequency based weapons. In different areas all over the world. They use it on any of their targeted individuals. And again, that's kind of somebody that they want to just keep stifled for whatever reason. Either they think that you're going to be a huge liability to them, or they might be experimenting on you. They're always doing experiments on people, unfortunately. It didn't stop after the MK Ultra or, MK files. It just kept going, and Gate is just kind of proof of that. So, yeah, that is just the kind of the information that I have on gang stalking and targeted individuals, or like what it looks like and what the signs are of it. If you are suffering from that, I do have some tools that can help you, because some of it is like subconscious, and some of it can even be used. Like one of the main purposes that I would say for targeted individuals, besides just kind of no touch torture, is that they want you to carry out like a certain mission if you were programmed a certain way. And with that, I mean that they may be doing it like a trigger to get you to switch to a different personality or alter. And sometimes that is to just carry out like a specific job or mission that they want that alter to do. So if you work on parts therapy or like talking to these alternate personalities and breaking down the amnesic walls behind them, then that can help you to be less susceptible to any of these like triggers around you. You can also do like a removal of the programming that is causing these triggers to like happen. So basically what's happening is trigger your reticular activating system like knows what it's looking for and what to pick up on based on a lot of patterns that you've already made, throughout your years. A lot of these patterns are made before you actually turn 7, and it gets harder and harder to break them down as you get older, to change them as you get older. And so, one of the things that you can do is different subconscious reprogramming techniques. And so, I use one called neurographics, and you can choose what program or what issue you want to work on when you do this. And so, you set the intention before you're going through the process and removing that programming and like rewiring it so that your neural networks are no longer being triggered, at whatever trigger it is. So, you can do this just to like clear out like negative emotions or what perceived programs. Like I always say, self-sabotage programming is pretty common in kids. And but if you're working on through like a healing journey, then you're gonna know like what triggers you already have, and you can work through those for yourself with this process. I think it's really important that I'm not touching your subconscious in any way. I am guiding you through the process for you to make those changes yourself. So that, that's something that was huge for me because I didn't really have trust that I didn't want to go to somebody to deprogram me. I didn't want anybody to, I didn't want to go to a hypnotist and give them access to my subconscious. So that's why it's been so important for me to come up with tools that you can use like actually on your own without anybody interfering in your healing process. So that's part of what you can do. I'm sure that there's more solutions that I haven't discovered yet, but um, those are two of the things that I have done on myself, and I will say that I am far less susceptible to, like triggers in like music or anything like that. Like sometimes music would trigger like a negative emotion or a negative pattern for me, and since I've done some of that subconscious reprogramming and parts work, I no longer have those like switches in moods or any triggers from music, which is just something notable to me. Again, I was not really, I've never really considered myself to be a targeted individual, though some periods of my life I do have some signs of that, but it's never been terrible. I would more consider myself to be stifled out of like the gate program groups. So yeah, that's kind of where it runs for me. So I hope you found that helpful.